And welcome back to the final part of Let's Play Mega Man X. But before we can get to the final level, we have to take care of Sigma's Fortress 3. This level pretty much consists of nothing but Maverick rematches with a few extra things interspersed between. Mostly just opportunities to get health back. Now, for our first rematch of this level, we've got Armored Armadillo again. Now, Armored Armadillo is, honestly, he's actually really easy, but I'm just bad as pattern. I don't know why. Oh well, I can't help everything. Eventually I start jumping over his shots a bit better. Right there. Of course I still get hit by the rolling attack, but whatever. I'll take my victories where I get them. So, this time around I decided to use all the Maverick's weaknesses, because like I said, it's not really a matter of whether or not I want to challenge, it's a matter of whether or not I want to waste any time. We've already seen all these fights, we already know that I can do at least most of them without using the weaknesses. I did cheat on Armored Armadillo and used the Spark Volt to get his shield off the first time we fought him. And look, it's Sting Chameleon, who I almost called Spike or Spine again. I don't know why I always got those names confused. You may notice that the quality for this video isn't all that great. I'm still working on it. The later half is a bit better, but for now we're just gonna have to deal with some eccentric looking video. It's gotta be so weird to see the quality shift so dramatically. Although, is that a good thing or a bad thing? I don't know. I'm just rambling about anything. We've seen all these bosses before and they're pathetically easy. Oh, that actually reminds me. Sting Chameleon was the only guy who I used his weakness instead of fighting him with the regular Buster. Maybe I should have used the regular Buster here just for the sake of showing the fight off. Okay, so I lied. I also cheated with Sting Chameleon. Oh well. He is actually kind of a bastard if you don't fight him with his weakness, because he teleports all over the place. Now, here's a fight that becomes a complete joke when you use the weakness. Spark Mandrill becomes frozen when you hit him with his weakness. So, as I'm about to demonstrate here, you can just keep freezing him after he bursts out of the ice. Yeah, this is why I didn't use the weaknesses for the good majority of the fights, because it just makes them complete jokes. I'd like to have some challenge. What do you take me for? Anyways, we're going underwater now, so I bet you can guess who's next. I hate these stupid fish. I mean, seriously, what is their point? All they do is waste your time more often than not. You can get hit by them, but you kind of have to try to. Now this time around I used the Rolling Shield for Launch Octopus. This is his weakness, but hilariously enough, it doesn't really make the fight any easier. Simply because Rolling Shield's not a very good weapon. I mean, if you get right in an enemy's face and start spamming it, it can be somewhat decent since it does more damage than your regular pellets. But it goes through ammo really fast, and against pretty much everything else, namely bosses, the damage is pretty lackluster. Although if you want a really easy way through a Launch Octopus's stage with all those fish that hit you with the tornado gusts, just get right in front of them and start firing rolling shields without any regard. Same can't be said about the snakes, although maybe if you use the rolling shield when you get on top of them and start nailing them with your pellets. Only this time around you use the rolling shield. I haven't actually tried that. Now the only way to get these power-ups is to use the boomerang cutter. However, I decided it's not worth the effort to try to get the health, and if I get the ammo, it's just going to go to the boomerang cutter anyway, so I decided, why bother? Although I do make a few more half-hearted attempts before I ultimately just say it's not worth it. The conveyor belts mean only one thing. our old friend Flame Mammoth. He's the final Maverick we have to fight here, which I guess is obvious considering he's the 8th. So, a rather annoying thing I found out, in the case of X1, I was actually wrong about saying that using passwords will take you back to the stage you were on. I believe this was... No, I know that this is the case in X2, where passwords will definitely take you back to the stage you were on. But not in X1, you always get booted back to Sigma Fortress 1, which is kind of a pain, to be honest with you. Unfortunately, after that we don't get any healing, and we have to go on to a unique new boss. And, I actually did pretty good in this attempt, but I ultimately just failed. I did pretty good in my first attempt, but ultimately I died. I almost won, but almost doesn't really count for anything. Hilariously enough, I actually do worse this attempt, even though I have more health. Man, that was an awful shot. How did I miss that? I have no idea what this thing is supposed to be. Well, no matter. Anyways, it's fairly obvious how this thing attacks you. If you get hit by the head, you get hurt. If that thing manages to, the car half of it manages to ram you into the walls, you get hurt. And those giant spark balls, you can probably tell that those hurt. Occasionally I can get lucky, and if I just wall kick up the wall, he fires the the big spark thing underneath me. Which is what I was trying to do at the start of the fight when he fired it, but it didn't work. What's annoying about that giant cart is that it can actually knock you off the wall. I was actually really worried I was going to lose this fight again, but in the end I actually pulled through. There we go. Overall, not a really tough boss, I was just playing pretty bad. And with that, that's Sigma's Fortress 3. It was a... Nah, it really wasn't a challenging level. You really were just remashing everything. But with that out of the way, now we can get to the nitty-gritty. This is the final level, the showdown with Sigma. But before we do that, we're going to take care of we're going to do a little trick. And on the shaft up to Sigma's area, there's these infinitely spawning caterpillars. Just get up to them with the rolling shield, and you can just farm energy for your sub-tanks. You can also get extra lives, but that point's kind of redundant, or rather, it's kind of redundant to do that, since if you continue, it doesn't get rid of your sub-tank energy. So I paused the video right here to take care of that real quick. Full-on sub-tanks, and I have the shotgun ice equipped, which will become apparent in a little bit. It's for a little pre-final boss fight that normally I do pretty decent at, but at this attempt I actually did pretty awful. Now I am going to use the weapons that Sigma is weak to, simply because I'm not good enough to beat him with just the Buster. Maybe if I had done a bit more practice runs on this I could do it, but sadly no. I can do it in X4, but that's not saying much since, to be honest with you, X4 is probably one of my favorites, but it's one of the easier games in the series. Anyways, this is Sigma's dog. I don't know why he made his dog fight us, but hey. I guess Capcom was going with the 3 is the magic number idea with this boss, because there's 3 different phases. Shotgun ice cuts through that thing really quickly. I actually forget what this weapon's name exact name is. I think it's the Spark Bolt, but hey, whatever the case, it's Spark Mandrel's weapon. This is what Sigma's weak to. Anywho, my strategy basically involves getting him to go up the walls and then hitting him with a fully charged shot. This is the strategy I usually employ. Occasionally I mess up the timing, but usually I can get it to work reliably. And in what's probably a first for me, I think I managed to get through this fight without having to use any sub-tanks, so... Oh no, I had to use one. Now, something about the X collection. Sub-tanks actually work like they're supposed to. Sort of. Usually when you're down to low enough health, they'll heal you to full. But occasionally they'll just heal you half. I'm I'm not exactly sure what determines this, so I'm just going to assume that either you have to be at really low health to get the full heal, or there's some sort of glitch that just causes it to not work properly and occasionally just give you half health. But here's Sigma's final form, whose name I cannot remember. It's Sigma and the giant wolf thing. Now, to be honest with you, this fight can either go really well or really poorly. Basically, you're basically man, I'm speaking really redundantly. You're pretty much just at Sigma's mercy here, and you have to rely on luck based on what he's going to do before you can do any damage to him. If you're feeling ballsy, you can try wall kicking up to those hands to get shots off at him. But the safest way to do is to just wait for him to send his hands after you. His attacks are a large pain to dodge sometimes, since he doesn't really choreograph which direction they're going to be coming from. This is namely the problem with the flamethrower attack, where it isn't obvious which direction it's coming from. And for that spark launching attack, the real problem there is just getting the timing down on going underneath the sparks is kind of annoying. Like, see, half health healed by the sub-tank there. And like I said, he doesn't really choreograph where he's going to be using the flamethrower, so your safest bet is to stand in the middle of the stage, but sometimes I just try to run around, mostly just to avoid boredom, to be honest with you. I probably could have made this fight go a lot faster if I were a bit more lenient with, or rather a bit more willing to just do some wall kicks, but I ultimately decided to not go through with it, just on the off chance that I messed up and take more damage than is necessary. Now, I swear this fight got more random from the Super Nintendo version, because in the Super Nintendo version I managed to do this on my first shot without using a sub-tank. So, I haven't actually commented on this yet, but this form of Sigma is actually weak to the rolling shield. It does 2 bits of damage to him, which is both kind of funny since rolling shield is generally considered one of the least useful weapons in the game, but it's also very handy because the only other weapon that can hurt him is the fully charged pink buster shots. And this is the real reason why Zero gives you his buster at the end of Sigma Fortress 1 if you don't have the upgraded X buster. But other than that, nothing else hurts him. So, since I'm not really that great at this game, I decided to go with the rolling shield method. As you can see, I'm still kind of at a skill level where it didn't really help me much anyway. So really, this fight's probably the most tedious leg of it. Sigma Form 1 can be a real pain if you're not great at dodging his attacks or getting his pattern down, but it's otherwise a fairly benign fight once you get used to it. This one is just where sometimes it just comes down to luck if you're not willing to do the wall jumps to try and get up to Sigma's head. Now I was really worried here because I only have 2 bits of life left, so one hit and I'm dead, but I luck out and his next attack as he sends his hands at me. So we're all in the clear and Sigma's done for. Why you done this to us? A bit of a problem with the porting onto the X collection is for some reason a few words got omitted from the ending texts. Like Sigma's "why you done this" right there, and also something in the end text scroll was omitted, which pretty obvious, but I'll point it out just in case you can't see it. I think very little of you, don't I? I'm sorry. But that is Mega Man X1. It was a war waged with only 2 guys fighting for the good guys. But those sacrificed themselves for the victory will never return. It's supposed to be "but those who," but for some reason the "who" got omitted. I really don't know what happened there. But hey, who am I to judge the port job done on this? They did get lazy in some areas though. Well, not really so much lazy as Capcom wouldn't let them do what they wanted to. And X considers, was it worth it all? Could he have done this peacefully? Well, he could have, maybe. But that wouldn't really make for much of a game. And X must wonder, what is he fighting for? Part of X's character is that he wants nothing more than to live peacefully, but unfortunately, he was also designed to be the world's champion, so in these desperate times, he is needed. Unfortunately, in Mega Man X7, he decides to succumb to the more pacifist nature of himself, and by pacifist I mean he becomes a whiny douchebag who doesn't fight, and you actually have to unlock him in that game. But that's best saved for another day. Also, recently I bought X7. It was just about as bad as I was expecting it to be. So it's a good thing I got this collection. But that was Mega Man X. In terms of difficulty, X is probably one of the easier games in the... Well, hell, it might be the easiest game in the series next to X4. But there's a bit of charm to it. In its simplicity, it's probably... Out of the games, it's one of my more favorite. So far, my least favorites have been Well, my least favorite's just been X3, really. I did not care for that game much. But yeah, I really liked Mega Man X. Simple game, anybody can really get into it, because it's not as difficult as traditional Mega Man games. It relies more on raw skill than raw memorization. Granted, memorization helps, but you need a fair amount of skill if you want to actually get through this game. This little credit scroll here goes through all the enemies we've faced over the course of this game. So if I had to rate Mega Man X, probably my second favorite. My favorite is X4, both because that was the first X game I've ever played, and it's just a really fun game. It's action-filled. It works great. It's got two different characters to play as, and both of them have unique ways to approach things. Two characters are X and Zero, of course. Ooh, whoops! I spoiled that Zero comes back. If you don't know the plot of Mega Man X, though, you probably don't know much about Mega Man games in general. So I don't feel bad for spoiling things. Now I'm a bit disappointed here. Sigma's dog didn't get an enemy credit. Poor Zero. Luckily, he comes back. And for one last closing thing, Capcom was nice enough to thank the player for getting X through his journey. This eventually dwindled. In X3, they just say thank you. They don't say you as Mega Man X. And in X4, those thank yous disappear altogether. Man, Capcom games just became much less charming when they went on. And don't even get me started on their business practices, but that's neither here nor there. So yeah, after this I plan to take on Mega Man X2 soon. And X2, it's a fun game. It's not exactly I wouldn't say it's as good as X1, but it definitely introduced a lot of important mechanics to the series. So I can't deny that it wasn't important to the series as a whole. And it's still a modestly fun game. Special thanks to all Capcom staff. So yes, next time we'll be taking on X2. Until then, see ya.